Now the cover images, I have cut them out, and I've also made these a little bigger than you need them to be so that you can trim around if you need to. So what's nice about these kits is that it doesn't matter if your printer prints your pages and your cover images and your end sheets a tiny bit bigger or smaller than they should be. It doesn't matter. As long as everything matches up, as long as you're printing everything with your printer, if your book happens to be a 1/16 of an inch bigger or smaller than mine, it doesn't matter at all. And as you can see on these, I trimmed down the cover images just to fit inside the edge of the board. You can leave as much of a spine on the board showing. This part will show. The part that's on the spine and wraps around, that's going to show. But the part that's on the board, you can leave as much on or off as you want. That'll be up to you. You can paint the boards, you can stain the boards, anything you want underneath. I'm going to cut mine out to be just smaller like these were to put on the book. Sound like a plan? Once these are mostly dry, we can go ahead and put on our spine material, and this is just a piece of book cloth. I had several colors here. You can use fabric, you can use bookbinding tape if you have any, gaffer's tape. You could probably even use duct tape. Just saying. On one of the books, this one, you can see that it's a gold spine there. I actually used masking tape and I put it on and then I painted it before I put the cover images on. So there are all kinds of options that you can go for. But anyway, I'm just going to use this little bit of book cloth, and it is approximately 1.5 inches wide, and it is the same height as my cover boards. And all I do, I'm just going to paint brush some PVA on the back of the cloth. And then I just put the spine in somewhat in the center. We're going to be covering up the edges, so if it's not perfectly lined up, it's going to be okay. Just lay that down. I have the bone folder. I just kind of crease that with my thumbnail. Get that fabric down into that little groove there before it hits the cover board, and then it just folds over like that. I'm going to turn it over. For a minute, and there we go. Sometimes if it stretches a little funny, you can just trim off the little edges, but I think we're okay. So that's what it looks like at this point. The fabric fits around that spine and then down in that little groove before it folds up and over both of those cover boards. Now we take the images from the kit, if you're using a kit, and you can trim it down to whatever size you want. I trimmed these down to fit just inside the cover board, so just barely incrementally smaller than the cover board. And very simply, just get some PVA on the back of the cover image. Alternatively, you can also brush the glue on the board as well, whatever is your preference. And after I printed these, I did seal them with a little bit of spray sealer. Just a little bit of spray sealer, just to protect the image a little bit. And now the same thing gets done to the back image, but I think I'm going to paint, or I keep saying that, I think I'm going to brush the glue on the cover this time. It does dry clear, so it's not like you're trying to hide the glue. If you line it up against the foredge on this side first, it usually goes on a little easier. And there we go, our little children's book. As you can see, the glue adds moisture to the equation and you'll get a little bit of board swell, which is absolutely normal. It's just what happens. So I just put a little bit of wax paper or something inside so that these pages don't stick together. And then you can put it underneath a nice heavy book, or I'm going to put this in my book press, but you don't have to. You can definitely, you can even put a couple of good sized boards and sandwich it in between and then put clamps on it. There's all kinds of options. I'm going to put this in the book press real quick and we can just let that dry. It might take a couple hours depending on where you live and your humidity level. The paper that I printed on, I'll show you, see if I can get an up close picture, one of the images. So it almost looks like watercolor images, and this paper that I printed on, I'll see if I can get I don't know if it's going to pick it up. It has, there we go. So it has almost a, what one of my subscribers called like a magazine page sheen. It's not glossy, but it's not that flat velvet matte either, like you get on copy paper. It's just flat. This just has the slightest little bit of a sheen. And with these illustrations in this book, and this happens to be one of the Bluebeard images, it just really sets it off. It really makes it beautiful. I will put a link to that paper in my favorites list underneath this video, so you can look at that paper if you want. It is a Hammermill paper, and Hammermill is one of my very, very favorite companies when it comes to paper. They are just consistently good. There's Bluebeard. I just love these illustrations. They're so cool. I think they actually were watercolor. I think that's what Walter Crane's favorite medium was, watercolor. And this one is Kate Greenaway. She was an author, artist in the turn of the last century. So there's those two, and then the Golden Primer is a little older, but has some pretty cool images as well. So I hope you like all three of this style. This was just another one of my golden primers that I had already made, and I used the book tape on that one. So I hope you enjoyed this project today. If you've never made a book before, hopefully this gave you a little bit of insight on one of these simpler techniques in bookbinding, and maybe this will give you the confidence to try it out yourself. I hope you try this technique whether you use a digital kit or not. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today to do a little bit of bookbinding, and I will see you really, really soon in the next video. Bye guys!